For invocation by Pastor Scott Kirshner of Christ the King Community Church, and afterwards followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And when we do the Pledge of Allegiance, let's remember that today is Pearl Harbor Day, and that there are a lot of people that sacrificed in the Pacific War of World War II, particularly on the Arizona, and we should reflect on that as we say the pledge today. Pastor.
Thank you. God, we just come before you tonight. We thank you for this beautiful city that we get to call home. We thank you for the residents that make up this city and the leadership that's been elected to represent us and to just lead us into a bright future. I pray that you would just give each of them wisdom and discernment, discretion, and as they make decisions, there's a lot that they have to recognize and plan for, and I pray that you just give them your leadership. We thank you for each and every civil servant, God, in this community. We thank you for all that keep our city beautiful and maintained. We thank you for our civil servants who, Lord, protect us, men and women in uniform, those that are there in rescue, fire and rescue, to keep us safe and to help us when we're in need. And we just thank you for just the opportunity we have to come before you. We thank you for the many faiths that are represented in our community. And as a Christian myself, I thank you for this holiday season that we get to remember, Lord, at Christmas, the reason that you loved us so much and you gave your son for us. We thank you for that. And Lord, I do remember the men and women that lost their lives in the Great World War. I think of Pearl Harbor and just the tragedy that was, and leading us into that very difficult time in our history. I thank you for the men and women who fought for freedom and the freedom that we get to enjoy in this country, where all faiths can worship without any persecution or threat. And we thank you for the freedom and liberty we get to enjoy in our country. God, we're so grateful for it. We recognize it as a gift from you. We just pray your blessings on this evening and all that are here. And I ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Scott.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I really appreciate that fateful day 80 years ago, Pearl Harbor Day, at dawn in Honolulu, at Pearl Harbor. That changed the world in so many ways, for good, for bad, I don't know, but it certainly mobilized a nation. And tonight we get to mobilize the community for the greater good. So this Christmas season, I appreciate the invocation. I appreciate everybody's thoughts and patriotism as we say the pledge. Roll call.
Councilmember Foley.
Here.
Councilmember Tremont.
Here.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Here.
Mayor Burnett.
Here. We have a quorum, election of vice mayor.
Could we go?
Yeah.
All right, I'd like to nominate Councilman Scott Stiltner to serve as the next vice mayor.
I'll second.
We have a nomination for Scott Stiltner to be elevated to the position that you're about to leave in the next 30 seconds or so.
Yes, sir.
Vice Mayor Bastian. Do I have any other nominations?
Is there a huge pay increase?
No.
None?
None.
Better parking spot, anything?
So you're not nominating anybody else? Nominations are now closed. We have one nomination for Vice Mayor, Councilman Scott Stiltner. Call the roll.
Councilmember Foley.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Well, let's see. You said yes to it, so I'll go ahead and say yes to it. 5-0.
Thank
Congratulations,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Thank you.
Appointments to council committees in 2022. Let me get that list up. We're not even to the consent agenda yet. There we go. The current list. Currently, the way we have it, Art House, Councilmember Tremont, General Employees Retirement Trust Fund, Council member, now Vice Mayor Stiltner. River to Sea TPO, Vice Mayor Stiltner. Municipal Firefighters Pension Board, Councilman Foley. Municipal Police Officers Retirement Trust, Councilmember Drew Bastian. Port Orange South Daytona Chamber of Commerce is myself. Roundtable of elected officials is also myself. And First Step Board is Councilmember Tremont. Is everybody content with those, or would you like to do any horse trading, gentlemen?
I think we got some typos there, Mayor.
Probably do, either that or...
I sit on the General Employee Pension Board and would like to retain that. I would like to see if somebody else would be available to take over the TPO board.
Gee, I can't imagine why. They have such riveting and exciting meetings.
Those actually are pretty good.
They're good meetings, but that is a heck of a commitment, and you have taken that on, and I appreciate that. Does anybody else want to do that? Jonathan?
I'll volunteer to take it over.
Okay. So Scott, you're good with the General Employees Retirement Trust. We're looking at TPO, River to Sea TPO being Jonathan. Well, let's start at the top. Chase, are you fine with the Art House?
I'm good.
Municipal Fires Pension Board. Jonathan, are you good with keeping that?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
good with that.
Municipal Police Officers Retirement. Drew, you're good with that?
Yeah, I mean, with my employment, I just have to take time off to attend the meetings, but there's only 4 a year. At least
Okay.
one of them will fall. So,
During
yeah,
summer.
it's hard for me to, it would be hard for me to take on another one, but I can make the Police Retirement Fund work for sure.
And First Step, Chase, are you still good with that one? And I am certainly good with the Chamber and the Roundtable of Elected Officials. Do we have a consensus?
I'm good,
Then
yeah.
I will read this off, and I'd like a motion for acceptance. Art House, Chase Tremont. General Employees Retirement Trust, Vice Mayor Stiltner. River to Sea TPO, Councilman Foley. Municipal Firefighters Pension Board, Councilman Foley. Municipal Police Officers Retirement Trust, Councilmember Drew Bastian. Port Orange South Daytona Chamber of Commerce, myself. Roundtable of Elected Officials, myself, and the First Step Shelter Board, Councilman Tremont. May I have a motion to accept those?
Motion to accept the appointments as stated.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Public comments on the consent agenda. Anyone want to talk about anything that's on the consent agenda?
Anybody?
I do not see anybody, so may I get a motion to approve the agenda for the evening?
So moved?
Second?
I was looking at Scott to make the motion, but that's
Oh.
okay.
Duh.
Hey, he's the parliamentarian now, but you know what? That's okay. We can do this, whatever keeps things moving. We have a motion for the approval of the agenda for the evening. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an agenda approved for the evening. We have items 8 through 18 on consent. May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second for the items on consent. Call the roll.
Councilmember Foley,
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont,
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, and that 2021 Annual Concurrency Management Report was a fun reading.
Yeah.
Citizen participation, non-agenda. We're going to hear from Ryan Helms and Elena Duvat. Welcome. Tell us who you are. You got 3 minutes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Elena Dumais. I'm a senior in high school. I'm also a member of SWAT, which stands for Students Working Against Tobacco, and I am the chairperson for Tobacco Free Volusia. We're here today to invite you guys to our next Tobacco Free Volusia meeting. These meetings are held on the second Wednesday of every month from 4 to 5, and it's usually right here at the Lakeside Community Center next door. At these meetings, we discuss tobacco and nicotine use and prevention in Volusia County. We work with many partners throughout our county who help aid us in creating a tobacco-free future. And for more information for tobacco-free Volusia, you can visit tobaccofreevolusia.com or we'll contact. I'm also representing SWAT today, which is, again, Students Working Against Tobacco, and we're searching for more youth ages 12 to 17. We are a club all throughout the state, and we represent our Volusia County chapter of that. And we go around to all the different schools and areas and community events and promote. And we are looking for more people to join our club and to fight back against big tobacco. And for more information on that, again, you can visit swatflorida.com. Thanks.
What time is your meetings?
We have one meeting once a month, and they usually vary depending on what our members are available to. Since we have a lot of high school through middle school students, we try to make it work with their school schedules and any after school things.
What time does it usually start, give or take?
Usually a little after 4, somewhere between 4 to 5 to 5 to 6. Make sure they're out of school.
Very good.
So the second Wednesday of the month and is next week on the 15th, and then January 12th would be the next one.
I believe it is tomorrow, actually, because I think, there was the first
Oh,
was
that's
a
right.
Wednesday.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
tomorrow
So
there's a
moved up.
meeting from 4 to 5, and that one will actually be at Daytona State College.
Okay.
But next, starting January, it will be January 12th. That will be at the Lakeside
I'll
Community Center.
try and pop by in January.
From
Thank
4 to
you.
5. And then also, good evening. My name is Ryan Helms, and I work with Civic Communications alongside Tobacco Free Florida. In addition to Allie's points, I would also like to raise awareness for the cessation resources we have available in Volusia County. If you or anyone you know would like to cease the use of tobacco or nicotine products, please visit tobaccofreeflorida.com or call 877-822-6669. I will email each of you guys these key resources as well as all those dates. And then I would like to close with some shocking statistics that impact our community. Annually, approximately 480,000 Americans die from tobacco use, and 1 out of 4 high school teens are currently using tobacco and nicotine products in Volusia County alone.
Thank you.
That's
You
it.
have more to get?
That's it.
That's it?
Yeah,
You
thank
sure?
you.
Okay. I was going to give you a
We'll
little more
let you-
time since
yeah.
we interrupted you with questions.
But yeah, I'll email each of you guys all those dates. And stuff.
Thank you.
That'd be great, yeah.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
Thank you.
Well done, thank you.
guys.
Good job.
And Patricia Randall.
Good evening, Mayor and fellow councilmen. Nice to see you tonight. I'm usually not a nervous speaker. However, I am so angry today that I am here to you with my notes in front of you. I've been a law-abiding citizen since 1986 of the city of Port Orange. I go to work, I mind my business, I'm a quiet neighbor, I keep to myself. I've enjoyed living here until recently. I feel that I am unjustly, unfairly, and constantly targeted by the code enforcement. I feel like they do not. They're impartial. They're not impartial. They find who they want to find. They cite who they want to cite. Shouldn't they, if my garbage cans are in my driveway and they cite me, shouldn't they cite the person beside me whose garbage cans are in their driveway as well? Today, the harassment continued. My husband came home, parked the car in front of the trailer to hook it up to go to work, goes inside to use the restroom. While it takes what he needs to do, the code enforcement officer comes by and gives him a citation for blocking the sidewalk. No courtesy of ringing the doorbell, no courtesy of saying, how long is this going to be here? Nothing. A $30 Christmas card from the city of Port Orange for blocking the sidewalk. The truck blocked the sidewalk. Yes, it did. Humans could pass it safely without stepping into the street for a matter of 2 hours. After my husband received the citation, he got in his truck and drove down 3 streets in our neighborhood. We have pictures where he took pictures of 10 cars parked illegally in the street, which you cannot do in our neighborhood. Parked, blocking the sidewalk. Canopies, blocking the sidewalk. Cars doing the same thing. Not one citation issued, not one warning issued. It is harassing. It is unfair. If we're going to cite people, we need to do it fairly and we need to do it consistently. I feel very strongly that we have been harassed I feel that the officers are able to choose who they can cite and who has to conform. We have a tree service down that blocks the sidewalk every single day. My way home, I have to drive around these cars that are blocking the sidewalk every single day, driving around them in the street every single day. It is not my intent to say, I got a ticket, you should too. But it is my intent to live in a city where I don't feel harassed. And I feel that I am being treated fairly and justly. I have lived in the same house for 36 years with an uneven sidewalk. I've seen young and old fall, and if the city of the Port Orange is going to continue to harass, they need to get their affairs in order as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Ryder, where do you live?
I'm in Brandy Hills.
I've got the address.
Okay.
I'm going to ask Wayne to look into it.
Thank you.
Officer Jean? Anything going on?
Yeah, a lot.
I know there's a lot. We
How are
talked
you?
about that. You got 3 minutes, sir. Who are you?
Ooh, I'm Officer Gene, Port Orange Police Department. I'm also the founder of Spouses Back in the Blue. You might have seen it on social media. Port Orange Police Department, Spouses Back in Blue are doing Cops for Christmas again this year. First of all, I would like to say thank you for the council members who have shared it. It's been really greatly appreciated. Last year we did Cops for Christmas and we had 80 children, approximately 80 children. This year we have 180 children.
Oh my gosh.
There's a lot of kids out here without a Christmas. There's a lot of single parents trying to provide 2 and 3 children a Christmas. What I'm here today is just to bring it to awareness that if anyone would like to assist in helping these families, that they can donate toys, which we have a list of toys on Spouses Back in the Blue Facebook page, and we also will accept monetary donations. If anyone would like to write a check, it would be written to Spouses Back in the Blue, which we have a Cops for Christmas fund set aside just for that.
Excellent.
It's really dear to my heart, what we do here. I've been with Port Orange for almost 11 years. I've served these citizens, and I love our citizens. We have a great population of people. It's dear to my heart, Cops for Christmas is because when I was a kid, my mom raised us by herself. And we had a lot of times where we didn't know where food was coming or if we had Christmas gifts coming. But we always had love. It is our way of giving back to the community that we serve every day of our career. So I'm just here to ask and to see if there's anybody out here that would love to support such a great cause and provide these families with a great Christmas. We have it on our Facebook page. Our address is on our Facebook page. And if you would like to drop a check off, you can drop it off at the Port Orange Police Department. Provide it to one of the people in the front office. If you have any questions, my phone number is out there on the Spouses Back in Blue Facebook page. I work night shift, so after 12 o'clock would be
Call about 7 a.m.
Call yeah, 6 a.m.
Yes.
or so?
Yes. We've had a lot of people step up and help and donate, and it's been greatly appreciated, but we still have a lot of children to help provide Christmases. One child who I've found, I won't state names, but he's 17 years old, and he wants tools so he can go to work and help his mom pay the bills. That's the type of children.
Keep going. No, you want to give him more time?
Yeah.
Is this
Yeah.
relevant, council?
Yes.
We have a consensus. You got another minute.
All right. So these children are not asking for extravagant gifts. A lot of them are asking for bedding, for beds. Last year we provided a family with 2 beds for her children.
Outstanding.
We've provided Christmas trees for families who don't have Christmas trees, lighting, decorations. It's not just about the gifts. There's one family that's hurting really bad, and they've got a big surprise coming. I reached out to a good friend, and it's going to be an amazing surprise for him, man. And if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't have been able to do it. You
You want to
know,
mention the deadline to drop off?
so drop off.
The 19th, right?
Yes. Our pickup and delivery is set for the 18th, but with the amount of children that we have, we know it's probably going to go further past that date.
Okay. At the very least, we can, if we haven't done so already, I'm sure we could share it to the Port Orange City Hall Facebook page, but you know I'll be helping, and you know that the rest of us are behind you. I just got to say, the things you guys do, and girls, just by doing your job to serve this community is tremendous. Just by doing your job. And this is above and beyond, and we couldn't be more grateful. And I'm sure that 180 kids are going to be grateful as well.
Yes, sir.
And we will help get the word out.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Gene. Appreciate it.
That's all of them, Robin?
That's it.
Okay. Council comments. Let's start with Councilman Foley.
All right.
What do you got for us this evening?
First off, I want to say how awesome I thought the Christmas parade was here on Sunday. It was really exciting to be a part of that for the first time, and to get to throw candy and see just all of our residents out there enjoying something that really was just awesome to be a part of. Really enjoyed that. My other thing that I have actually really is not that important. We might have a long agenda, so I'll save it for next week. So, thanks, guys.
Chase, what you got?
Just a couple quick things. First, and this is not something I typically do from the public, but I get a lot of calls on it. Wayne, if we can get someone over to the, just maybe reach out to Burger King right there on Nova, that sign that continues to, it's a gateway, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is I get call after call after call about it, to maybe address it. I mean, a guard banner would look better to cover that. So that being said, also hats off to Parks and Rec for the parade this past week. Having not still getting adjusted to seeing big crowds again, so it was nice to see the community get together and have events like that. So appreciate the Parks and Rec putting that together. And then finally, just to comment on Officer Gene, you know, I've never been of the mindset that we should feel bad or guilty for the things that we have in life, but I've always been of the belief that we should be, that we have a moral obligation and a duty to share those blessings with others. So take that opportunity to, whether it's spouses back in the blue or any other thing. There are dozens and dozens of different charities and opportunities. Toys for Tots, led here by Councilman Foley. Any opportunity, it breaks my heart when you hear about children that may not have the type of Christmas that so many of us are accustomed to. So let's consider that and take action for it. Thank you.
You got it. Drew?
Yeah, kind of continuing on the parade thing, I just want to thank the entire city staff, because it took more than just Parks and Recs. That there were, I mean, it's a huge undertaking, and it takes a lot of planning and a lot of effort and a lot of work to pull it off, and they pulled it off, and it turned out great. So kudos to everybody who helped make that happen. Much appreciated.
Scott?
Yeah, I would just echo the same thing, that there's a lot that goes in logistically to pull that off with all the different departments of the city that are involved in that. It was great to see. I want to say thank you to Vice Mayor Bastion he was in charge of the weather. So did a nice job with that. I'll try to duplicate
You're in
that.
charge next year.
I got it. I'll take care of it.
Just don't make it too warm. I don't want any of the chocolate I was throwing out to melt. Okay?
So, no, that's all I got. Great job on that event. It was nice to be out there and see everybody out.
The other thing that you guys weren't able to be there to see it, but Saturday night, the night before Christmas in the park, the tree lighting ceremony, the singing, the entertainment, Santa Claus coming in, the horse-drawn carriage around the lake, the little girl, the look on her face when she realized it wasn't just the Christmas tree that lit up, but every tree all around the lake.
The switch.
And it was when she threw the switch after the countdown, and there was easily 1,000 people there at the amphitheater. And it kind of reminded me, it was magical. It was absolutely magical. After the year we had last year, it was, I was a little choked up when I showed up, and I was looking around, and I was a little overwhelmed. And that was just a terrific, terrific feeling to have. And it kind of reminded me that at some point we need to, and this will be things that we need to talk about at budget time. But that amphitheater, it could be larger, it could be covered, and covering an amphitheater is not a cheap proposition, but at some point in time, I'd certainly like to see what it would take for us to do that, because there are so many things that we could do there year-round and have that same feeling, and the community, our citizens can benefit from that
Well,
as
and
well.
I think the original plans had a phase to cover it at one point, so.
No, it's more than just a phase.
Yeah.
It's a big commitment. So we'll look at that at some point. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there, food for thought. It was a terrific event, and Wayne, please extend from the entire council to multiple departments our appreciation for the entire weekend. It was terrific way to get the season going again. Board appointments, interviews, and reports. Item 20, Police Pension Board appointment. Fifth member, may I have a motion for the approval of Sergeant Warren Carmen?
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? There being none, would anyone here care to speak to that? There being none, back to us. Final comments? Motion to approve the appointment of fifth member Sergeant Warren Carmen to the Police Pension Board. Call the roll.
Councilmember Foley,
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont,
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Item 21, Parks and Rec Advisory Board report. There he is. You hiding in the back, Mark?
I am.
Smart man, get close to the door.
That's where I should be, right?
You look good, Mark.
Good evening, everyone. Real quick synopsis. I've been told you guys got a busy meeting, so they told me to hurry up, so I'm going to hurry up. At our last board meeting, we discussed the Christmas parade, and I want to give commitments to Susan and her team. They did an outstanding job. I'd like to tell you that I planned it, but that would be a lie, so I'm not going to tell you that. But it was a great program. I was out there. I was trying to catch some candy, but it was a great day. We also discussed the progress of the new community center, the rec. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to go by and look at that, but it's moving right along. It's a great project. It's going to be really important for the city as we get bigger, and it's going to be just a gem for the Parks and Recreation Department. We also discussed the progress of the Airport Road playground equipment, and again, if you haven't been out there to look at that equipment, they're doing a great job on that as well. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to be 100% complete, but it's moving right along, so it's looking good. And we also talked about we certified what our top priorities are for the upcoming years. Again, I want to keep reiterating this, that the Karasi Park expansion is at the top of our list, and we want to make sure that we try to find a way to purchase that land as soon as possible. Building the expansion could take several years, but land is, it's going, and if we don't purchase it as a city, another developer will, and then we'll be out on that opportunity to get that land. We also are very interested in the West Side City Center, which we also know is going to be a few years down the road, but we got to make sure that we keep it on top of our agenda so that you guys are aware that that's what we want as a board moving forward. And the last thing we talked about is we are all looking forward to our joint meeting with you so that we can discuss these items in greater depth in the upcoming year. I think hopefully we're scheduled in the springtime for our joint meeting. So, and that's pretty much what we talked about. So, are there any questions for me? Oh, I take it back. We did talk about the disc golf. That's something that could, we're working on that. It's something that Bushman is probably the only park where we have the land to do it, but we'd have to cut down a lot of trees to make it happen. So we're looking, we're talking. It's
Keep toying
not
with
something.
it.
What's that?
Keep toying with it. I think it would be a big hit.
We absolutely will.
Okay.
Absolutely will.
Great.
All right.
Any questions?
Just a quick comment for you, Mark, if you want to put in your notes. I've had a couple of residents in the last month or so inquiring about a off-leash dog park somewhere on the west side. So as we talk about Karasi and properties out there, I don't even have an idea what kind of space something like that entails. But I did go online and look at a few. I know we've got a small one off of Spruce Creek Road, but specifically off-leash park is what
Yes,
I think they're looking for.
there is definitely a need. I know that there's one in DeLand that
when we need to
Yep.
take our dog and let him run for a while.
Yeah.
That's where we take him, so, yeah, okay, that's something that we'll bring up at our next meeting.
Anybody else?
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Merry
Have a
Christmas
great
to you.
evening. Thank you, you
Hey,
too.
Mark, Merry Christmas.
The public hearing portion of the meeting is now open. Item 22, first reading of ordinance number 2021-28, the 2021 Comprehensive Plan Capital Improvements Element. Ordinance number 2021-28 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending the Comprehensive Plan Capital Improvement Element, providing for the fiscal year 2022 to 2027 5-year schedule of capital improvements and supporting data, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, resolutions, and providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2021-28.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. The item's open on the floor for discussion. We have a proper motion and a second, and, wow, we haven't seen you in a little while.
Good evening, Penelope Cruz, Planning. So I'm here before you, same time every year, to do the state mandated comp plan amendment. It's dictated for us to do this per state law as far as taking the already approved capital improvements program and basically just copying and pasted the concurrency related projects into the comprehensive plan, strike through an underlined format. And just basically continues that annual cycle that we have of preparing our annual concurrency management report, evaluating what our needs are infrastructure-wise. That influences our budget cycle as we start up again very in the near future, adopting our CIP and then copying that into the CIE. So we're kind of at that end of the year cycle of that, and we're going to pick up right back up next month. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Good.
Pretty simple. Any questions, council? There being none, would anyone here care to speak to the item? There being none, back to us. Council comments? No final comments? Okay, fine. Call the roll.
Councilmember Foley?
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont?
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes, 5-0. Item 23 is first reading of ordinance number 2021-29, amending section 22-4 of the Code of Ordinances, City Council District Boundaries. Ordinance number 2021-29 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending section 22-4 of the Code of Ordinances relating to the City Council districts, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2021-29.
Second.
I was starting to worry there for a second. We have a proper motion and a second. The item is open and on the floor for discussion. Mr. Berman?
Tim Berman, Community Development. This is something we get the privilege to do every 10 years with the census being released, and is to reevaluate our districts just to make sure that the population is equally distributed between those districts. This is released with the census information and just to account for changes in population over the past decade and make sure that we're equally throughout the city then. So once staff received the census information there, we went ahead and started looking at the boundaries there and made up 4 maps that equally distributed the population along with complying with the principles that were outlined in the agenda item. Once those were prepared, we presented those to the districting commission at their meeting. After their discussion and review of the 4 map options, they chose map option 4. That is the map that's attached to the ordinance, which is part of this item as per the charter. The other 3 maps that were provided to them were also included in this package material. And while option 4 does comply with the criteria that was on there, staff's recommendation is that option 3 map is basically changes less of the boundary configurations while also balancing that criteria then. So the districting commission's recommendation is option 4, which is included in your ordinance there. But as we say, staff basically feels that our option 3 better aligns with minimal changes in the district boundaries while meeting the criteria. If there's any questions?
Matt, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's a pretty good overview. There's multiple criteria. They're listed in the agenda A through H. It is kind of a balancing act to a certain extent, and yeah, I concur with where staff ended up because of the one issue that was mentioned by Tim there is the trying to, as best you can, follow the existing boundaries that are in place. I think option 3 probably does a better job of that than option 4.
Council, questions of staff before we,
Jim, can you?
What was the vote tally on this? Was it unanimous?
I believe there was 9.
which time?
The last time there was basically, it was not unanimous, and there were basically members in favor of it and against option 4 then at both meetings.
What was the rationale behind completely wiping out, I say wiping out, just kind of flip-flopping District 3 and 4? What was the thought process on that?
In terms of, you're referring to map option?
Option 4.
Option 4 then?
Yeah, that's the one that kind of takes away District 3 and turns it into District 4.
It basically, goes along, basically when you're trying to
I'm just
evaluate
wondering
this
what the
criteria
thought
then.
process was behind it.
Again, it would just look at different map options to try to get that, equal that population split, and also balancing that criteria and looking at, kind of creating different options to look at then. Was kind of, what led to 4 then. I think also too, basically in trying to find out some of the boundary lines then. We didn't want just to give one map and say, here what it is. We want to have a couple different options there. Again, when you kind of create the maps and then you start looking at them a little bit more and more and more, you start seeing where other ones start taking, better, they basically complied with those criteria a little bit better then, and that's what we started seeing as we started to evaluate those more, and that's why we kind of went back to the commission that 3rd meeting then to try to kind of, show that then.
What else you got?
Well, that's all I got.
Jonathan?
Do we have an actual final vote, what it was on the commission? How many voted for 4 and how many voted against it? That's their recommendation?
I believe it was 6-3 in favor of 4.
It was.
That's good.
Drew?
4, I don't want to call it a radical change, but 4 is a pretty big change. Looking at it's hard to, I mean, I'm adjusting the computer here, but yeah, it looks, quick math, like population-wise, they're all pretty close, but it looks like 3 is the closest on balancing the population between the districts. And I mean, we vote citywide anyways. It's a citywide election, but 3 looks like it balances the population the best. Doesn't appear to be as many changes. Let me see.
Any other questions? We'll come back. and
Yeah,
make
no, I don't
comments.
have any questions at
Okay,
this time.
because I'll come back to you guys and we can all make comments after we've heard from everybody. Scott, questions?
No, I just was going to ask Tim if he would also just kind of go through the specific details as they're laid out here, comparing 3 and 4. If you could just comment.
I think this map kind of shows right here, this is basically option 3 and option 4 on there, and it's kind of harder to see on the screen here, but what we try to do is hatch the areas that the district boundaries had changed from the current layout then. So on option 3 right here, you can see essentially this area right here is what changed from, I believe it went from District 1 to District 2 then. You have this small area right here that went from District 2 to District 3. You have this area right here, which went from District 3 to District 1. And this small area right here that went from District 4 into District 3. And this small portion right here that went to District 4 then. So basically, when you look at these changes right here, the city's basically about 28 square miles. The total changes in here, kind of the boundary there shift with about 1.3 square miles and change then. When you go over to option 4, you've got basically this area right here, which goes from District 3 to District 4. You've got this portion right here, which goes from District 3 to District 4. Again, this small area right here, this node from District 2 to District 3, and this larger area up at the north end of the city goes from District 2 to District 1. This represents about 12 square miles of land area changing district boundaries then. So while basically option 4 does follow generally the criteria in here, Again, when we looked at basically, following that criteria, making sure the population was evenly distributed and seeing which ones had the minimal changes to the district boundaries, option 3 had the minimal changes to the district boundaries.
One of the things that and I know we're going to get more in depth with this in discussion, but one of the things that's interesting in the criteria is that you have criteria D to follow existing district boundaries when possible, but then you've got H to avoid district with bizarre shapes. And 3 is currently a bizarre shape, in my opinion. It doesn't conform with the idea of easy natural boundaries that you can quickly point to and go, hey, everything west of this or east of that or what have you. So I guess then maybe that's for something for Matt to touch on. Is it? I mean, would you agree, Tim, that 3 is in the current or in the option 3, District 3, a lot of 3s, has a bizarre shape to it compared to.
There is no road from one end of the district to the other.
Right.
Yeah, and just to hit on that point, when as the cases kind of flesh this out a little bit about bizarre shape, I mean, you're really looking to avoid packing and cracking. So the traditional, you've heard gerrymandering, right? And it's
right.
It looks like these crazy, almost like camouflage looking districts. That's really what you're trying to avoid with the bizarre shapes. We don't, it's never going to be a perfect square, triangle. You're not going to have like a perfect shape. But bizarre shape is that type of shaping, and we don't see that either one of the options really run into that issue directly. We are kind of okay with the general shapes that are shown there.
That's all I got for
And
now.
some of the things on option 3 where it looks like it's a bizarre shape, such as the one that kind of between District 1 and 3 right here, that's actually Village Trail. It's basically, so it's following a road, but the road is just designed to be the curvy nature then, which, so you don't want to make a straight line there because then it wouldn't follow the road then. Same thing up to the north then there too. I think it's basically Old Sugar Mill Road and Nixon Lane. They are not the most east, there then. So they are following landmark roads on there then. It's just sometimes the road configuration is, not a straight line then.
Matt, and I know you and I have talked about this, but if we are bound to a certain degree by the way that it looked 10 years ago, what's the point? It's like I wanted this board to look at what was best, and I have trouble believing that you can get us for gerrymandering when we're all elected citywide. What I want is, one of the things I was hoping that in 6.3 they gave us a map that made it easy for people to figure out what district they're in. When they need their councilman, whoever that he or she might be, I want people to say, it's easy. Matter of fact, it'd be easy for me, just tell me where you live with District 4, and I don't even need to look at the map. I can tell, with map 4, I can tell you. So I understand you want to try to minimize the changes, but all of us represent everybody to a certain degree. Is that not true?
Yeah, that's true. In the city of Port Orange, it's I guess less of an impact considering it's nonpartisan. It's at-large elections for every seat. So really, it's about kind of keeping the various council members sitting kind of from different parts of the city. But to Tim's point, the reason we do this exercise every 10 years is to keep that even distribution among the various districts. That's kind of your number one factor to be considered, and I think each one of these maps gives you that.
And I'm just going to say to the rest of council, whichever way we go, I'm not going to lose sleep one way or the other because we all represent everybody. But I want to make it easy for people to figure out when they want to reach us, that when they need help with something, I want us to be able to, the easier it is for people to reach out to us, the better.
Something that, in my opinion, to note about option 4, it does require for one person that is sitting on this dais at all times to live on the other side of I-95 versus currently and with option 3 it does not require that. There is a world in which you would not have to have anyone that lives that side of the interstate.
Well, and that might be a good thing because if you want your district to be similar in makeup so that everybody comes with a distinct viewpoint, that might be one way to do it. I don't know. We can talk about this more, but I want to hear from, I know there are members of the commission that are here, and I want to hear from members of the public as well. Anyone here care to speak to the item?
Yes, sir.
Stan, I couldn't imagine that you might be the first person up. And you were the chairman of the commission?
Yes, sir. Stan Schmidt, 5574 Trailside Drive, and I did have the privilege of serving as the chairman of the commission. The question that Councilman Trayman asked was what was the vote counts. The first meeting that we had where we actually approved the map, it was 8-1. And then later on we were told we had to come back and reconsider because staff had some issues with it. And at that point in time we came back with a 6-3 vote. And that was the latest vote. But in any case, it was always a pretty strong majority of the people that were in favor of map 4. The things we looked at, and you'll see in front of you the reasons or the criteria that you had to consider.
Sure.
But the handout we were given has a little additional bit of information that kind of influenced us. On point D, it says follow the existing district boundaries when possible. Because on ours it says, because it recognizes the will of the voters. And our response was, we vote for all 5 of you. The voters have had a say on all 5 of you. And if you went down to Walmart, Target, Publix, whatever, and asked the first 10 people you ran into who their city commissioner is, my guess you're going to have a hard time getting more than 2. I served on the county school board for 8 years. And during that time, I was on the zoning for the district, for the county map. One of the things we heard at that time was the state had come out and they had hearing sessions all around. And one of the things that the public constantly told them is make the boundaries easy to follow. Make them easy to identify, follow major roads, follow major rivers, follow railroads, whatever. Make it easy. That's what we did. With this thing, pretty much, if you're west of 95, that's one zone. If you're east of Nova Road, that's another zone. And if you're north or south of Dunlawton, those are the other 2 zones. So we made it really easy to figure out as far as where you are. And as far as knowing who your commissioner is, again, as the mayor pointed out, and as I experienced on the school board, if someone's mad at you, they're probably going to call the superintendent, or in this case the city manager, the mayor, or they're going to write to all of you. You're all going to hear about it. And if someone contacted me and it wasn't my constituent, I would generally say, let me get to it, let me get your name and address. I would call their rep and say, hey, I've got this, I've talked about it already, but here's who it is, and you can call them back and give them the report, so you'll get the credit for it. But it's okay, because y'all work for the city. And the other thing is we went into this thing, we had some significant people on here with a lot of significant experience. We are not trying to get the city of Port Orange in any legal problem. And if you look at this and you look at legal issues involving districting, they tend to be on the statewide level where we deal with cracking and packing, as the attorney pointed out. We don't have that here. We're nonpartisan. We vote citywide. That's the way it goes. Do you want to cut me off or?
No.
Keep taking more time.
Council,
Keep going.
Keep going.
do I have a consensus?
Yeah, good.
Man,
Give him another 90
let it slow
seconds.
down. Anyway, so we considered all these things. We had the 9 things. We considered them. To us, for following naturally identifiable or man-made boundaries, that kind of conflicts with follow existing boundaries. And then the last one is avoid districts with bizarre shapes. Your current map is bizarre. You can't tell anybody where that is easily because you've got boundaries that run through the middle of a subdivision. This doesn't have that. This is mostly major roads. You might have on the edges, you might have a little bit of that. But basically, we tried to get something that was clean, easy. We identified the people and distributed the population. And we don't really care about the land mass. Mr. Berman mentioned, well, we're moving this many square miles and all that kind of stuff. We're worried about population because that's what this all comes down to, is how the voters of the city of Port Orange are going to deal with future elections. And it was also nice, we also asked the Lewis, the supervisor of elections, if this had a problem for her, and she says no, it doesn't have a problem with her. She can stack her precincts any way she wants to because we vote citywide, so it's not an issue as far as the supervisor of elections is concerned. I'm done.
Thanks.
Done enough, we'll put it that way.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
We've had enough of you. Who else? Anyone else care to speak? Come on up, Robert.
Mayor, council members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive North, Port Orange. I did attend both sessions that the commission was looking at this. The first three options cut my neighborhood up, so that was a good reason for me to select 4. But 4 was also my choice in terms of just cleaner and look better. And a very wise man said to me, if you select people to be on a commission and then you reject their recommendations, you might have trouble finding more people to help you out, be available. Thank you very much.
So a wise man said that? That wasn't you? You're giving credit to somebody else?
Somebody else said that.
Okay. Thanks, Robert. Anyone else care to speak to the item?
Good evening, everybody. I was one of the 3 that did not follow number 4. While I can see that it's got clear lines.
You need to give the
I'm
clerk
sorry,
your name.
Christine Cunningham, 150 Sweetgum.
Could you speak up too?
Okay. I was one that did not. So I voted for number 3. I felt I'm more of a people person than I am a line person. Apparently 10 years ago, the districts followed number 4, they changed it. Okay. And there must have been a reason 10 years ago that it was changed. People, we mostly have an older population. People are comfortable with the people that they know. People are comfortable reaching out to the people that they think that they belong to. And I really feel that when we change the whole town around as to who they felt in a relationship with, that they can talk to, that we're going to have people for a few election cycles that may not feel that they can vote because they're not going to understand what it actually means. And I'm very concerned about people becoming upset that a group of people just changed their whole town and their perception of that. We are representing our people in our area. Yes, that is very true. They may never know that I had a different vote for the people reason. And I really, it's 10 years and we will definitely get through this. But if it takes two or three cycles for people to understand that it's okay that we are voting as one city, we have lost a lot of people. I don't move to a city and say, oh, it's Nova Road, I'm going to be on in this voting angle. I come, they ask you, do you want to vote? I get my voting registration card and it says you're in District 2. So then I know where I go. It's okay. We have documentation. We have plenty of ways of communicating this to people. It doesn't have to say Nova and Dunlawton, whatever, wherever it goes, as dividing it in a big change for them. So that's where my concern is that we will lose our residents and their faith in us. And the one that is closest to what they're familiar with is where people feel that we have done our job and that they are going to come out and support where we need our residents to support our city. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Who else we got? Seeing no one, back to us. Okay, I'm going to ask each of you all, not only in your comments, but to express an opinion. Scott, you are dancing in your chair, so I'll let you go first.
So my comments by and large, I just want to clarify some misconceptions maybe, and also some comments that are made. I want people to make sure they understand that voting precincts and this district discussion are 2 different things. So every one of us is elected citywide. So whenever there's an election, and there is a council member, mayor, anybody on this dais that's being elected, doesn't matter where you live. Irregardless of where your precinct is, those names will be on the ballot. I want to make sure people understand that, because I did have one resident that thought this had to do with the county designation of your precinct, and this does not. Precincts change all the time, and they may change anyhow, but this is not what we're talking about. The second thing is like the city attorney mentioned, I think it's very important for people to understand who don't know, the city of Port Orange is a non-partisan elected race to be on city council. So it doesn't have anything to do with political affiliations or political parties. It's very important to stress representation. Sometimes we hear people will say, your district council person. There is not a district council person in this concept. You can call any of the 5 of us for anything. It doesn't matter if you know where we live or in relation to where you live. You can call any of the 5 of the people on this dais. It's been like that for a long time. People who don't live in the city of Port Orange call me. For the record, Spruce Creek Fly-In is not in the city of Port Orange, but they still call us all the time. They think they're in the city and they're not. They're in District 5.
You need to work on that,
Yeah,
Scott.
right? So I just really want to make sure we hammer that home. And I know we've got a member of the media here tonight and folks are watching this online, and I just want to make sure no matter what, that does not confuse people. If you live in the city of Port Orange and there is an election where somebody on this dais or a position on this dais is up for election, it will be on your ballot, and you can vote for it if you're a registered voter and you are a resident of Port Orange. You know, I've gotten a lot of phone calls on this. I would say that if we were starting from day one, clearly, in my opinion, as you look at map 4, it is clean. It uses the borders of major roadways, large neighborhoods, things like that. I do think that as the map exists now, that 3 is an odd shape, and I get it. Some of this is probably growing pains of a city that has grown and will continue to grow to some degree. But 10 years ago, you look at the amount of residents that are in the city now and where they are, there have definitely been some population shifts, and there's likely to be plenty more over the next 10 years. So
just be careful with that statement, because in this regard, we can only
right.
do with what we got right now.
Sure.
We can't look
But
forward.
there was a comment about what this has been for a couple of cycles, and you're right. You are absolutely right. And in 10 more years, there'll likely be changes again. But and then lastly, I just want to thank the commission that served on this board. This is something that only happens every 10 years, and not only did a lot of folks put in a lot of time and a lot of mental energy, I really appreciate that, and had to get called back a second time to even kind of hammer out a few things. And there's been a tremendous amount of discussion and thought, sincere thought, on what's in the best interest of all the residents of Port Orange, and I truly do appreciate that. And then just last, to wrap it up, so someone may say, well, then what's the point? Well, point is that there needs to be a balance of where the candidates reside, so that as things are different throughout our city, clearly you don't have all 5 people who are residing in the same neighborhood or same part of the city or same side of the city or things like that. So it kind of breaks that up with a concept of, if you are electing your body that is spread from the city, they all have a different perspective of the city. And so I think that's just really important to make sure that everybody keeps that in mind.
So do you have a map preference? Well, let's put it this way. You have to have a map preference, so because that's what we're talking about. So
I do.
What would yours be?
I do. I'm probably more inclined for map 4.
Okay. Drew?
Yeah, everything Scott said is true. And we all take calls from other people's district or answer emails, and it like I said, we run citywide, and I've never said, oh, it's Councilman Foley or Tremont's, or it's the the mayor's at large anyways. But so we just handle it, and then it goes on. But every single election, I seem to run into at least a couple people that said, oh, I can't vote for that because I'm not in that district. Not true. Exactly what he said. Anything that comes up, when that ballot gets mailed to you or you pick that ballot up, you vote for everything on it. It's already determined, and since we're citywide, anything that happens in Port Orange that requires a vote, you get to vote for it. Looking at it, I mean, option 4 is a bit cleaner, but it looks like District 1 moves a bit more to the west from where it's at. They're all pretty close on the population. Wait, I gotta get this back up here. Hold on a second. Option 3 looks like it is similar to the current districts, and so the criteria thing, like there's bits and pieces of criteria in every one, and you know, I don't want to say any one of them is wrong or a bad option.
But you got to make a choice.
I think I'm leaning for 3.
Okay. Chase?
Yeah, this is one of those. It's one of those issues that come before us. There's no right or wrong scenario. Every comment that was made was absolutely correct. It was right. There's nothing wrong, and I appreciate it hearing both sides of the issue. You know, my situation, I would look, and frankly, I'm almost indifferent to this because this is one of those situations where very few people in the city pays attention to the districts. And I don't mean that as an insult, you know, because I didn't know what district I lived in. Matter of fact, I didn't know who our mayor was before I started my exploration to run for office. So if that tells you anything. But for those that, because 4 is such a drastic change, the ones that do pay attention are going to find themselves starting over. So my concern is the drastic shift in where it's at. And again, it's not right or wrong, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, you know, again, I'm indifferent, but I'm more inclined to accept the staff's recommendation. That's not to discount the efforts that the commission does, you know, and you know, sometimes we take the commission's ideas, sometimes we take the ideas and recommendations of boards, sometimes we don't. But it's never to discount the position that they bring forward. So I'd lean toward option 3.
Jonathan?
Thank you.
Well, first off, I'm going to echo the same thing that everyone else is saying. Anytime anyone steps up to volunteer, we always appreciate it. The board willing to get together, and not only get together once and twice, but to be called back a third time. That is not lack appreciation from me or anyone else up here. We're constantly thankful for other citizens' commitment and willingness to serve the city. So, say that first and foremost. To me, you know, again, citywide elections, everyone can vote in every single election. This is somewhat ministerial in a way. The thing that I noticed tonight while I was going back and forth between these slides is that option 3 actually has less of a population change from district to district in that legend that's in the bottom left. Notice that the highest percentage is District 1 gaining 1.5% versus on option 4 you see 2.3% swings in District 2 and District 4, which I thought that was interesting. And I had not picked up on that until tonight. I was going back and forth.
Still not very large, though.
No, not very large, but worth noting. Now's a bad time to tell you I like option 1, isn't it?
Well, you know what? If you like option 1, then
I
I'm
sincerely,
asking you for your...
from the first time seeing these maps, I've liked option 1 the most. However, option 3 is the closest to option 1. So if I had to pick between those two to get to a consensus,
you can choose between all 4. I mean,
I will tell you, option 1 is my first choice.
Okay.
But
so your preference right now is option 1.
It is.
Okay. Well, you're not voting yet, but that is your preference.
That's correct.
Okay. That's you? I'm not going to lose sleep one way or the other no matter what we decide, because like we've all said, we citywide voting, but if I don't want to be bound by something that we did 10 years ago, if it's not right for us today. And Chase, once again, this will be one of the many, many times we disagree, because I do think it's broke. Is it broken badly? No. We're all going to serve. But I think it is broke, and I don't feel obligated or bound by something that is drawn 10 years ago as far as making changes that make sense. I think my personal opinion, option 4 does a very good job of matching areas of the city up geographically with the perspective of the people who represent them. I also believe that this board is made up of a lot of smart people that we selected and that we trusted, and that they resoundingly picked map 4. And they, I know for a fact, put a lot more time into this than I did. And I've got a hunch that it's probably the same thing for all of us, that the real time I took into it was talking to all of them when they called or reached out to me, or the amount of time I took to study the agenda packet. So I am I want to be very respectful of that, and for the other reasons, like I said, I'm not going to lose a ton of sleep one way or the other, but at the same time, 10 years from now, a council is going to be up here talking about what that board has chosen, and I don't want them saying, boy, those idiots 10 years ago had a broken map and couldn't fix it, now we're stuck with it again, doing subtle changes. I know District 4 and District 1 are going to have a lot of growth in 10 years. I don't want them feeling bound by something that we did. I think we need to do what's right today, and in my opinion, that's District Map 4. But we can all agree to disagree, but we're still going to have to vote on it. So at this point in time, I would entertain a motion to the an amendment to the original motion to select a map.
You've already got a motion on the.
We're going to amend the motion to select one of the maps. So if you want to make a motion to amend the main motion to.
So Mayor,
Why not call the vote?
to kind of, so.
Just call the vote.
Yeah, by a function of how this is kind of worded in the charter, where you're bringing a draft ordinance together, and the fact that you have to do legal description, and we're not going to go, do a bunch of legal descriptions without having some input. If it's going to be anything other than the option 4 that's presented by the board, then I would just recommend that be a vote.
So
but
voting on the main motion would.
Yeah, and that we could just bring that back on a subsequent agenda, put it on consent if you guys wish, and we could go ahead and have the opportunity to build the legal description of whichever map we choose here tonight. But 4 would be the only thing ready to go for first reading of an ordinance tonight. So we'd have to go back and do some work to bring it back any other option.
Okay.
Okay.
Are there any amendments to the motion? Hearing none, call the roll on the main motion.
So this motion is, just to be clear, to approve option 4.
That's the main motion.
So everybody's good. Councilmember Foley,
No.
Councilmember Tremont,
No.
Councilmember Bastian,
No.
Vice Mayor Stiltner,
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. Okay.
Motion failed.
Motion fails. Now what do we do, Matt?
So I'll just need a consensus of which map you want to go with. We'll bring back the ordinance, like I said.
I don't think you have a consensus because we got 4, 4, 3, 3, and 1.
Yeah, I think my 1 likes 3 though.
Well, well, hey now. I will say 3 is closer to 1, and I still like 1. I'm going to continue to hammer that home, but I would be more willing to vote for 3 than I would.
Well, and now that 4 is off the table.
4 is off the table.
3 would be my choice, so.
Okay.
Okay, maybe I will lose a little sleep over this. Okay.
I think that's fair. We can bring back an ordinance with the revised legal description, use the map for number 3, and we'll have that back to you here soon.
Okay. So I know what to vote against next time? Okay. The public hearing portion of the meeting is now closed. At this point, considering that we could spend a little bit of time on the next item, I think we should take a short 8-minute recess and return for the joint special meeting with the Town Center CRA. And we are back. The joint special meeting with the Town Center CRA is now in session. Evaluate purchase offers received for the city and CRA owned property at Riverwalk, item 24. Wayne, how are we going to proceed with this?
Yes, sir. Thank you. The intended outcome or objective of tonight is for you to hear.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we need a roll call for the town center, please.
Oh, hey, let's call the roll and then. Thank you,
Sorry,
Robin.
sir.
Call the roll.
Sure. Michael Benedict,
Present, here.
Don Burnett,
I am here.
Scott Stiltner.
Here.
Drew Bastian.
Here.
Chase Tremont.
Here.
Jonathan Foley.
Here.
Stan Schmidt.
Here.
Thank you,
Leave
sir.
it to the clerk to call us on procedure. Wow, hey. She must know her job or something. Wayne, please proceed.
Yes, sir. So the intended outcome for tonight is to hear our representatives from Colliers give you a summary of the 6 proposals that we have, and then at your discretion, tell us who you want to come see you next Tuesday night to present these proposals to you in person. So you can eliminate or pick all 6 if you want them to come. We have them prepared to all be here, or you can shortlist if you would like. We are very fortunate. We have a variety of qualified companies. We just want to let you have a little overview before I turn it over to Ken, that we have been looking at this from the standpoint, obviously, of what is the price that was offered, but in addition to that, knowing that we're looking at the greater good for the project for this community, how these proposals align with the city's vision for Riverwalk, because when this is a sold property, it's not a public-private partnership. It will be private property. So while we may be able to have deed restrictions on it, it's not going to be something we're in partnership with. It will be their private property. So making sure that you are contracted with the right person when you sell it. In addition to that, one of the huge benefits we have of having Colliers representing us in this case is that some of the key criteria that we're looking at here is the ability of the person making the proposal to deliver the project in a timely manner. Do they have the experience? Do they have the financing? Do they have the capability? Do they close deals? Our experts from Colliers are qualified to help us make that decision. And in addition to that, and Ken's going to get into the conceptual plans, I know it's generally what people go to is a pretty picture. Just remember that about a month and a half ago, we were just starting to talk to some of these people. So these are very conceptual, early stage drafts. These are not final plans. They're not engineered. So they're giving you a general idea of what these companies would propose to do, but they would still need some kind of flexibility because they haven't gotten that far in the process. So again, summarize the intent tonight is to get you more familiar with the proposals and make a determination in who you want to see next week to present to you, with the objective of coming out of the 14th with one of them ranked in the top. You may have a couple of backups, but at least to walk out of here on the 14th with a direction to staff to go begin negotiations with a top proposer. With that, I will turn it over to Ken Krasnow with Colliers, if that's okay with council.
So honestly, not only can we decide about shortlisting, we might have a decision to decide if we even want a shortlist.
Yes, sir, it's up to you.
Okay. Ken?
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. Happy to be here again. I guess we were here just about a month or so ago. So kudos to Wayne and Tim and Jamie and the whole team for doing a lot of work over the last month or so to bring us to this point. As Wayne said, the agenda tonight is fairly quick and concise. We're here to give you an overview of the bidders. We will walk through briefly the matrix of the offers that you've been presented, and then we will go through, as Wayne said, a little bit of the timeline and next steps. So, in no particular order, although they are in alphabetical order, so that is, I guess, particular order, we have 6 proposers that we're going to review with you briefly. Again, I know you have a packet of all of the information, bios on all of these groups, and so on and so forth, so I'm not going to spend a lot of your time because I think the discussion is where you want to focus here. But you've got these 6 groups: BLD, Bristol, Falcone, Harbor, Landmark, and Cornerstone. I told you when we were here, when we first started, and I told you a month or so ago, that, our job is to put you in a very difficult position of making a tough choice.
Well done.
As Wayne said, we, Colliers, as an organization, has experience with all of these groups. You are in really good hands with any of these groups, but as you go through some of their experience, as you go through obviously the price, as you go through some of their conceptual plans, there are some subtle differences for you to decide on which direction to go with. But 6 quality groups, again, starting in alphabetical order. BLD has got a long history in the mixed-use multifamily arena. The principles, go way back to some of the founding principles of multifamily mixed-use development. As you see, they've been involved in over $10 billion of projects. We put a few of the examples in your packet there. One of the pieces that I think is interesting for you to consider, some of these projects are, like M2 is really the next generation of a successful project. And again, I think that's an important consideration for you to consider as you look forward. Dare I say that every one of these groups, as Wayne said, well respected, well capitalized, but also, really focused on trying to get something done, here quickly. And the experience that we'll go through, demonstrates that. So, again, I'm not going to walk through all of the details that are on the screen that are more detailed in your packet, but as you can see here, the purchase price, and again, remember, you've got multiple parcels here. What we've tried to do as best as possible is give you kind of an apples to apples of what each parcel, what everybody has bid on. Some people chose not to bid on all of them. Some people have included parcels that are not necessarily owned by the city. So what we've done is broken it out. So again, you see for the core parcel, $8.1 million, roughly 320 units with 20,000 feet of commercial space, and an estimated project of somewhere in the neighborhood of $95 million. Bristol is a long-standing mixed-use multifamily. As you can see there, they've got about 10,000 units, $1.7 billion of assets under development, a number of projects throughout the Southeast, Tennessee, Alabama, and making, as I think I told you before, a very strong push to bring their brand and their expertise into Florida, and they've already started to make some real inroads in the Florida market. This is their conceptual plan. I'll say this 10 times tonight. Conceptual is just what that means. It's conceptual. This was not what is necessarily going to be built on the site. For you, once you choose a partner, and I know Wayne said that you're not doing a traditional P3 partnership, but in reality, they are going to be your partner, whoever you choose. Yeah. And so the conceptual plan, as you go through the iterations, it's important for you to understand the willingness of these groups to listen, to hear, to adapt, and all of these groups have good experience in doing just that. So Bristol, as you could see there, is offering $7.5 million for the core site, building roughly 240 units with a multitude of activation and commercial spaces throughout the development. We move over here to Falcone. Again, Art Falcone has been in the multifamily development business for well over 40 years, and his group is involved in some of the most signature projects throughout Florida. We mentioned a few of these in the last time we spoke, but Miami World Center is a multi-billion-dollar project that is literally transforming downtown Miami. Plantation Walk is a project in Plantation, Florida, where they took an old, failed mall and have converted into an amazing live, work, play, retail, office, hotel environment. So again, a very well-respected, well-capitalized group. You can see their plan. So again, for the core parcel, which is 7.25 million. Again, remember when we were here a couple of months ago, all of these numbers have moved, substantially and are in, a really nice range here. So again, relatively speaking, 245 units, 7,500 feet of commercial and restaurant space along the water, and they're estimating about a $60 million project when built. Harbor Retail Partners is, again, a very active mixed use, and I emphasize the word mixed use with Harbor because they've got, as you see in the backup, just a lot of experience with retail, grocer in particular. And so you look at some of the projects that they've developed throughout the Southeast market, some of the specific ones here in Florida, a lot of emphasis on the commercial aspect of the developments. The principals are, from the fresh market family and kind of, come out of that world. And so really understand the grocer, the retail environment, how retail and grocers interact with residents. And so this is their plan. As you can see, 6.75 million for the core site. I do point out this site plan looks a little fuller than the others because it does include some of the parcels that are not as of yet or as of now, let's say, owned by the city. But as you can see there, 210 units, 68,000 feet of commercial space. So a much more of an emphasis on the commercial aspect. Grocer in particular, you see that big grocer box there in the corner. But again, we do caveat that this makes some assumptions that other properties can be acquired and included as part of the development. Landmark Company is based in South Florida. We, again, a company that we're very familiar with, very experienced, not only here in the state of Florida, but they're in, as you can see, this project in Minneapolis, where they literally took a city or what the equivalent of a city and redevelop it. And then down in Texas as well. So in addition to Florida, they're I would dare I say a national development firm that's got a lot of experience in, again, multifamily mixed-use projects. As you can see there, I think they might be, well, when we get to the matrix you'll see, but $9 million purchase price for the core parcel. 320 units plus or minus with 20,000 feet of commercial space. Again, a site plan that incorporates some of the parcels not currently under control by the city. And last but not least, we have the Cornerstone Group, one of the prolific multifamily developers nationwide. As you can see, a couple of projects that they've done here in Central Florida. But again, just a well-known, well-respected group. Primarily had been known as doing a lot and helping in the affordable and workforce housing space, but over the years have diversified into a true, market rate mixed-use developer. And again, this is their just shy of $8 million for the core parcel, roughly 180 units with 15,000 feet of commercial. And again, so all of these are within a range. And again, the perspective of conceptual means just that. So don't get too caught up in the actual plans that are here. Before we go to the matrix, again, I'll just kind of reiterate to everybody. I know you've got a lot of the backup and you had all this information, and I'm sure you've poured over it and looked through it and so on and so forth. All of these groups, as I mentioned before, well respected, well capitalized, but really motivated to put their capital to work. So all of these groups, you could tell just by the calls that we get, the activity that we're getting from them, they really want, all of these groups are really excited about building here, not just buying here, but building here. Again, the key question is, who's going to be your partner? Who do you want to work with over the next couple of years to see this project to fruition? This just gives a little bit of a snapshot of some of what I just touched on. Again, for public's perspective, this is in alphabetical order, so it's not in any ranking order. But we tried to make it as simple and as clean as possible for you to evaluate. Just again, very quickly, we were here just about a month ago. We had presentations from every one of the groups over the course of a couple of days. We had, very in-depth presentations, Q&A. Staff, I know a lot of your staff, Matt, the team, all participated. Maybe some of you were on those calls, but so staff wasn't engaged in terms of asking questions, but certainly we were, and they were able to hear what the developers talked about. We then got their best and final, which is reflected on that matrix. So the pricing, et cetera, is what is on your matrix. We're now here today on the 7th. As Wayne mentioned, there's a plan to bring people back on the 14th. It is your discretion. You could decide to shut the process down and pick a horse today and start galloping. That is your choice. But everybody is prepared if you wanted to choose 1, 2, or 6 to come back on the 14th. But by that point, the 14th, you will then pick a number 1 ranked proposer, and then we and staff and the team would get into negotiations with the expectation that we would bring back for you, as we talked about before, a development agreement that you would be able to vote on certainly by the first quarter of next year. So we're on a very aggressive timetable, partially because we have a number of bidders that are equally as aggressive as you are, as anxious as you are to get something done. The good news is we've got a number of people that are equally anxious. So this is an aggressive timeline, but as you can see so far, we've met, and all expectations are that by the first quarter, you will be in a position to vote on an actual agreement. So that is the overview. I'm assuming there'll be questions, or David Kalkanis is
You
with-
assume correctly.
But we're actually excited to watch the back and forth between all of you guys. But so now the ball is in your court in terms of giving Wayne and his team a direction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council, before we move on, I just want to reiterate our goal tonight. That right now, the council and the CRA, our objective is to figure out who we want to listen to next week. So our questions, keep in mind the information we have and the information that's coming our way is going to grow. What we have right now, these are not static proposals. The information is not static. There's certainly more to offer. Right now, these proposals to me are nothing more than artwork, depending on the things who we quote unquote partner with, what we want to see versus what they need to generate. So when you formulate your questions, this should be about who we're moving on with, not necessarily what we're ready to choose, because we don't have near enough information to do that. That's what next week's about. So with that, why don't we start this end? Councilman Foley, or CRA member Foley, whichever hat you want to wear, you get to start. Questions?
Well, first off, some comments, and I'll try and be brief because I know we have a big process here. But I want to applaud you guys for the work you've done at Colliers to get this done, and staff, I know, worked extremely hard to get this in front of us and to us before Thanksgiving, so we'd have something to read over the holiday, and we've had time to pour over this. And I just want to make sure that effort doesn't go unnoticed, because I know it was a lot on staff to make that happen. So thank you guys. A lot of very experienced people here, a lot of interesting proposals for sure. I really don't have any questions right now. I kind of want to hear what everyone else has to say.
No, we'll circle back around. This isn't just a once through.
Yeah, I'm good on questions, but I just want to make sure I applaud staff before we do anything, because I know how hard they worked to get this to us as quickly as they did. So.
Very good. Yeah, and I was going to say, if we don't give Ken and Dave a shout out tonight, I think we'd be very much remiss. We appreciate what you gentlemen have done to get us to this point, and we know we're still in the early stages. Stan, what you got for?
So I'm not going to be able to be here next week, so I guess this is my one shot of just asking some of these questions. And I know these are concepts right now, so things could change as we go along. One of the things I noticed, in a number of these seem to have docks or marinas out in the river. And have these groups already considered dealing with the folks that govern the waterways and what that might take to get that going on? Because it has the reputation of being the big holdup. You get to drag through federal and state regulations concerning access to waterways and things like that. And you know, these are not fresh off the block guys, so I'm sure they've run into this before. The one from Cornerstone, you've got that on the corner of Dunlawton and Ridgewood. Is, if I understand that correctly, that's just an open space, that's a commercial out parcel. So there's no real, by the developer, there's no real plans there. It's just, we'll make that available for somebody else, is the way I understand that. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
It's their plan for that. They did not submit anything for it. They said it would be a restaurant or retail or something that they would show in the future. They would own it and they would choose what to do,
Right.
but they said they'd be willing to work with us.
Right.
Because we don't want to see a Walgreens.
I think they're getting out of that that business. No, but that was, you know, the concern was. But and again, that's their money. They're going to figure out how they're going to get their money back out of it. So they'll figure out some way of doing it, I'm sure. We had a number of these that that included parts that aren't owned by the city, and again, these are smart people. I'm sure they've made contacts with the property owners about you know, what's it going to take to convince you to come our way. So that, you know, could be a problem. It won't be our problem, I guess, other than the fact that if that holds up the project, can we sell this thing? And I guess that would be the thing, is is closing the deal going to be contingent upon the developer acquiring those pieces of property? Is that what we're saying?
That would be up to, that would be something that you would be negotiated as part of your,
Because
development.
they're coming to us with this plan, and they're assuming they can get that. If they can't get it,
Everyone, we pressed them in the, if you watch the videos, we pressed everybody about, do you have a contingency? Are you still going forward if you can't acquire them? Everybody is going forward without acquiring those parcels.
and I noticed that in the presentations too. I was hoping that they would show the existing property separate so that you can't go to a landowner and they can hold you up going, well, you need my property in order to finish your plan.
They're big boys.
And
They
they've
know
seen
how
all
to.
this
They know
before,
how to.
too. This is not
Yeah.
big.
So they're
versatile.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really it for me being annoying for a while.
Chase?
Yeah, I'll make just a few comments. I'll kind of go through, first of all, I echo Mr. Councilman Foley's comments. I appreciate all the information provided, very detailed. It's given me a lot to go through. No disrespect to any of the particular groups and their proposals that I don't mention, because these are all quality projects. But I'll go through and just list the ones that stuck out to me the most and why. Bristol, Falcone and Associates, and Harbor Retail Partners. And the reason being is, and again, no disrespect, because they're all phenomenal. And I understand that these are only conceptual, but the concept that they presented tells me that they understand what we're looking for. So I know that these are not going to be the final plans, but when I'm looking at it, there are these three stick out to me the most. As when I'm looking, they understand that we want a place that is going to be a downtown feel. It's going to be inviting, and it's going to have commercial options for our residents to enjoy, and that is very, very important to us. I think now I know Falcone did not come in; they came in the lowest as commercial retail. I'd still like to hear from them if they have, because they understand the concept. What they have in is very opening, it's very welcoming, it's inviting for people to want to drive by and go there, be a part of. But if they can't come above 7,500 square foot of retail, then I wouldn't be interested. But the concept is attractive to me. So that's kind of where, where I'm at. Just to give very detailed, specific direction where I'm going for. I mean, I liked Cornerstone as well, but Cornerstone looks to me like what we already have currently zoned up north just a little bit, 2 big buildings. And it just, I don't think our city waited 20 years to just see something that looks like an apartment complex. And maybe that's all that the market's going to ask for, but it looks like there's a consensus among these developers that commercial is inviting there. But I'd like to also see what they can do a little bit more with that property. But as it stands right now, I'd like to hear from Bristol, Falcone, and Harbor. But I'm open to, if anybody else wants to hear. Frankly, I'd hear from all of them. But that's where my top
So
3.
you're not discounting the others?
I'm not
but those are
discounting the
favorites
others at
right
all.
now.
Yeah.
Okay. Drew?
Yeah, I'd have to say the work and that your team and with staff that put together to come up with this on an aggressive timeline. It happened very quickly from when we decided to do this to the concepts that you have in front of us. And there were things on all of them that I liked and some things that I disliked, and I realized this is conceptual, and most likely whoever's picked, that concept is going to change based on what property they can acquire and where they want to go. Bristol probably stood out to me the most because they didn't include property that they didn't own, and they have a plan, and I'm
We
sure,
also have the largest investment.
yeah, and I'm
projected.
also sure that they would send people there, and this would only get better if they can make it contiguous and have all the properties in a row rather than building around what they don't own. So I don't know what the chances are, if it'd be out of line price-wise or whatever, but that's not for me because that's privately held property and I'm making a decision based on Port Orange. I noticed some of the budgets, one didn't even provide an estimated budget, that was Landmark. And so I don't know what they were thinking there, but I think they also had the highest residential units, if I'm not mistaken. And so you know,
Basically,
it
yeah.
looks like they're going after all three properties. However, they also have the highest amount of residential or dwelling units. So looking at that, and Cornerstone kind of mimics what we've seen before to the north, those conceptual plans or that plan. I think, I mean, I'd be good with hearing from three of them, and that would probably be the BLD group, Bristol, and I really want to hear from Harbor. I know they proposed a grocery market on property that they don't own, but I'm sure they have I'm sure they want to make that happen, and the money would be there for those folks to sell, to get a grocery store. So I'm thinking Harbor, BLD, and Bristol for me to dig deeper.
Okay. Scott?
So if you guys could give me a pair of scissors and some glue, we can make a killer project out of these 6 here. So thanks again for everything you guys have put into this. I know you guys are as excited about this project, I can tell, as we are. And I know now instead of just a couple of people, now you got 7 of us up there out here, and we're all going to have a little something. And so the trick is adding all the ingredients in there and coming out with something that really tastes good, right, and feels good. So appreciate the hard work, and I know you guys will continue that. So questions first, and then we'll make a couple of comments. Sure. Any of these groups that we're looking at here that you have, you know, I'm just going to have you to be blunt, real concerns about in terms of can they carry out this project? Do they have the financial stability and depth, I guess, to pull something like this off?
No concerns.
None at all?
I mean, I will honestly tell you, normally when we do this in other places, there usually is some natural drop off or some natural, you know, segregation, some groups that are not qualified or pricing is just way out of whack or something. Not here.
Do any of them have any, I'm probably going to use the wrong terminology here, but failed projects in the last 10 years that are significant? So I've done a lot of research on my own, trying to, you know, really look at these groups and what they've done and what they're doing now, and it is kind of limiting to what you can find if you don't really know what you're looking for. But I don't really see that. Are you guys aware of that, or
nothing that, you know, would cause any real concern or issues from that perspective?
in terms of, like, and I know you guys have grasped the vision that we all have up here. As I've done a little bit of the research, some of them heavily weight towards what they do from a residential aspect, and I get that. I mean, I do get that. Are any of these groups getting into something with us or pitching something that is really not what they do?
I wouldn't say that, only because, again, there's such a predominance of residential in all of these, you know, components, right? I mean, they are mixed use in nature, but there's still a preponderance of you know, residential units, and they're all, again, well capitalized, respected, experienced, mixed use, you know, developers. If you were No, so the short answer would be no. I don't think anybody's kind of breaking new ground or over their skis and developing into a product type that they're not familiar or comfortable with. Nothing really would distinguish one versus the other.
Okay. So just some comments, I guess, for the board and you guys as well, and for the folks that'll be coming back next week. So it sounds like this is going to come down to bring us your best shot on the next Tuesday night, right? And so this has been a long time in the coming to get to that point. So I want to make sure that I really like the way this has progressed, because one of the things that you guys have brought to us to this point is some confirmation of, can this vision occur? Well, obviously 6 of them think they can do this. Also, what is the value of the property? And conceptually, how do we see the mix, being shuffled up, so to speak, and what could possibly go there? And I will say that, I'm most interested in the properties we have control over and their designs, but I'm not discouraging them from having a broader vision, because I understand that, because honestly, I see this as somewhat of a kickstart into an area that is going to need redevelopment far outside of these boundaries over the coming years. And there's opportunities for there, clearly. So I don't want to discourage somebody who, has given us some more vision outside of the scope of really what we have control over. But just to make that comment, what I'm most interested in next Tuesday night is, tell us about what you're going to do with what we have control to help you with. So keep that in mind. A couple of chalk lines for me that I want to just kind of to snap out there. The project, and I know I've said this, you guys are probably sick of me hearing it, it's got to have a destination feel. That is going to be very high on my priority list. This has to feel like it's the place that Port Orange residents can go to their location and their unique area, like a lot of cities have. And it's been a long time coming, and that's a consistent thing I hear from a ton of residents and even business owners. And so it's got to have that destination feel to it. Commercial opportunity, retail, whatever we're calling this, the mixed use aspect of it aside from the residential for a moment. In my mind, I really want to see 20,000 square feet minimum. I'd be happier to see 25. So please carry that message back to them. So clearly a lot of them have kind of got that. I will just, I don't want to mention them all individually, maybe I will, but like for example, Falcone, I've seen some really stuff that is intriguing and interesting, but I think they've fallen really short here on how much commercial. I don't see how we make a true destination feel out of 7,500 square feet. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. But my chalk line on that, I'm really looking at minimum 20,000. You want to get my attention, go up from there, and some of them already have gained that attention. So maybe some adjustments there. And when I say the commercial mixed use and the destination, it's, again, I may not be using the proper lingo in the industry, but for me, it's the things to do area, right? There's things to go and do, whether that's restaurants and entertainment. And I know one of them has kind of a bar extending out over the water. I mean, that's great. I mean, that's the kind of vision that I think we want to see out of something like this. Timeline to, I'm sorry, let me back up a second. The residential aspect of the project. Clearly, and this has been something we've probably thought about and talked about with staff and in the vision of, there will have to be some residential aspect. I am very mindful of how much of that there will be. I would like to see the residential dwelling units cap at about 250 or less. I know some of them are in the mid 300s or low 300s already. That's getting outside my comfort zone. So somewhere in that 20,000 square feet mark in the commercial retail mixed use, somewhere under the 250, in the residential aspect is really what I'm comfortable with and where I'd like to see us focus. The Riverwalk Trail portion of this kind of goes hand in hand with the destination, getting people to the water, the waterfront aspect of it. Some of them have, you know, and I get that these are 30,000 foot concept views, right? They're nowhere near close to drilling down into the weeds here, but some of them have done that really well. Some of it is just kind of, it's vanilla for me, you know what I mean? So, you know, I want to make sure that we reiterate to them, when you come back to us, you got to bring that focus. We got to know how that's going to connect with our residents. We want them to know that that waterfront access, that feel, that Riverwalk vision is in this project. So that's going to be really important. Timeline and delivery, you know, that's going to be something, and I know we're talking about that, and from what you've given us, all of these groups have the financial ability to get started. So as soon as, you know, the attorneys can do their part, and city council makes a decision, and staff is comfortable with a project, and they're comfortable on theirs end, you know, this gets executed, that's going to be a big thing for me to understand and at least have some confidence in. And I know Matt, where did Matt Jones go? Is he in there somewhere? I know
At the kids' table.
I know Matt, and Matt, I guess you could, if you want to speak to it briefly, please do. If not, don't worry about it. But, you know, one of the things Matt and I had talked about is kind of a reverter clause. And I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, Matt, am I? Yep. Close? Okay. So a reverter clause, and I'd like to kind of understand that, and make sure they understand that is something I'm interested in, you know. I mean, that's something that will get my attention, is if they have that much confidence in the project and they can do this and they've got the finances, they can support that with a, well, if we can't do it, we've got this clause over here that we can discuss as an option. So just keep that in mind as well. You know, individually, I will tell you that I don't see a project here that there's not something to like about every one of them, which I wasn't really expecting that, I'll be honest with you. I thought, you know what, we're gonna get 6, I'm gonna see 2 or 3 and go, man, those are the ones I wanna hear from more. But every one of them have stuff in here, and that's why, like I jokingly say, give me a pair of scissors, we'll knock this out tonight, right? But every one of them will have that, and I think that's probably gonna really come out a lot next week. And what I hope is as we rank them out and we start to really hammer out the details in the negotiation, I hope that whoever that is will be somewhat open to some of the things from some of the projects that we may not select, because I think that it's there, it's in this package. This project, in my mind, and this vision is in this package, which I think is really refreshing. I mean, it is really nice to see a lot of those things. So I know that's a lot, and I've said a lot, and I know at least the meetings are recorded, so you guys don't have to write it all down, but that's what I'm looking for. And for this dais, you know, I'm not opposed to listening to all 6 and letting all 6 come in here. What I don't want to do is I don't want to short on time. So if that means we got to be here till 2 or 3 in the morning to make sure everybody gets ample time for us to hear a project of this magnitude, then that's what we'll do. I'd be okay with bringing 4. I'd be okay tonight narrowing this down to 4, but I am not opposed, and to borrow the mayor's slogan from earlier, I'm not going to lose any sleep, except for maybe that night if we do all 6. So I'm totally okay with that.
Okay. Mike, what you got for us?
So thanks
You had to
again.
follow Scott, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I may not be as quick as Scott. I appreciate the time. I thoroughly enjoyed the videos, you know, because this is concept work, and looking at them, you're like, okay, that's great. And, but when you guys walk through, especially David, kudos to the questions you asked, especially after the presentation, and grilling in and following up and asking. I enjoyed that thoroughly, because if you're going to have a partner, and to your point, while it is a private project, I do feel, I mean, we're going to have to approve, or the commission will have to approve what gets developed there still. So they need to have a partnership. It was a lot better to understand, and the videos were excellent, to understand who these people were and what their vision was. I did have a concern. You said there's no financial concern, but I definitely had a concern about how Landmark answered the question, and how they presented, not only to potentially pay for this years from now. I think 2024 is what they proposed, purchase price, which no one else did. To me, that concerns me significantly. And then also the amount of money they asked for on the backside. So while they may be vetted, someone that says they'd rather not pay now for it, I mean, that, I don't know if anybody else got that feeling, but that was like, whoa, that does not feel good at all. Landmark, and I don't know their financial capability, but no one else even touched on that except them not wanting to pay. And could you touch on that a little bit?
I think that's more style and negotiation than ability. So I just think that's, again, a lot of this is going to come down to, as you talked about, feel and your partner and willingness to get out the scissors and cut and paste and and put that all together. So I just think that's a in push comes to shove, they have the ability to write a check or do whatever they have to do. Would they rather not? That's their style. That's their preference, and
sure.
you can
I mean, they have the most aggressive offer too.
So
they're using time against that potentially. But anyway, so I have a number of notes on each one. But from the presentations, if I had to, not necessarily concepts, I echo a lot of the comments. I mean, commercial space to me is extremely important. I'm a commercial person, but there is a majority of the public that has actually spoken on this project here, but also as someone that has a lot of people come through their businesses, I get to ask them what they want to see in the Riverwalk. And I think Scott talked about it a lot, is the destination feel. And there's 3 that conceptually talk about it, but they also talked a lot about that in their presentations. And that to me was BLD, Bristol, and Harbor. They spoke about that significantly, about the streetscaping, the way that people feel, the way they walk through that, the way they expect people to enjoy the property. And it's not just about, some of them I think focused personally way too much on the residential aspect of it, which is a very, very small percentage of the population of Port Orange, of the people that will live there. And they really focused the whole property around that. And that, while that's great for the people that live there, the majority of the people that will be using that property are not the people that live there. I mean, and I think they're going to benefit from it no matter what. I mean, it's a phenomenal opportunity to live in a very key, easily accessible area for everywhere. So I'm an unfortunate with Stan too. We're not going to be here next week. We had trips planned months ago, which is very disheartening to me to not be a part of the final selection process. But I trust our cohorts here to make the definite right decisions on who we bring back. On a couple notes of the properties that I'll start with Bristol. I think they did an excellent job of explaining the flow of the people, the way they do that. They did not really shut off much. They had a very good mix of residential versus commercial. The way they highlight certain areas, I don't think they didn't take a lot of presumed ability as well. At least the way they spoke and the questions that were asked. Clearly, they have experience in developing these type of projects. I'll go to Harbor. The only thing that struck me on this one was that, and they talked about this a lot actually in the discussion, which is hard to see in this, but they talked about how you asked a lot about, well, you've shown the whole project without the parcels that are not part of the city project, and they had a lot of confidence in their ability to make that work. And I think someone else brought up that, I mean, there's a big property, the grocery store being the most notable, that is on top of a property that the city does not have control over, but the way they discussed it and the way they had the flow, I feel confident that they did that as well. The one I did actually like the way, I think it was the one I said I have a question about their financial, Falcone I think it was, or Landmark. I did like the way they explained it though. They had a lot of good points they made, but then they said that, and that just worried me to quite a bit actually, to where I wouldn't even, I mean, again, it's a negotiation. And so that brings a question, is the pricing on this a submitted bid, or is this a negotiated opportunity down the road for the final person? Or are we making a decision based on what they submitted as their final price?
Matt, can you help address that? And then also, out of that question, I wanted to say, in our selection process next week, we're going to do it by blind paper ballot. we're not going to choose a winner, we're going to rank them. So if a negotiation doesn't work with option 1 for some reason, out of what we wanted, we're going to option 2 or option 3. I doubt that's gonna happen, but we're not gonna come back here and do it all again because number 1 fell through.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, thank you.
Matt?
Yeah, just to answer your question, this wasn't set out as a formal bid, so this wouldn't be a bid that it's kind of take it or leave it. These are, however, best and final offers. I don't think there's any scenario where if somebody was close and it was a small amount of money that they could offer more, that we would turn that down. So I think there's probably some flexibility built in, but you know, we did go to these, or I say, you know, callers did go to these groups and ask for the best and final offer. So these will probably be pretty close to where you're landing.
Okay.
So we definitely don't think we're going backwards.
Yeah, well, I didn't think we'd go lower. I just want to know if we could negotiate more based on the opportunities, and that's all. I didn't know if it was a final. I mean, I know it says final, but it also says we're going to negotiate with them as well.
Depends on the clauses we put in, like
Yeah.
reverters and things like that.
And then, and this is probably a tough question because you have to deal with these developers on other projects. And I know it's already been asked a little bit about how you feel about each one, but have you guys ranked these internally as well?
No. We gave you this is for you to pick a partner and a group that, you know, you want to, we gave you as much information as we have, and I don't even know if staff has done it either. So I think it's really just giving you as much information as you need so that as a collective board, you guys can make a decision about who you want to go forward with or who you want to hear from again.
Gotcha, great, thank you.
Mayor, I'm sorry, before you go, because Mike just reminded me of one quick thing I wanted to comment on. The Harbor Group, and maybe I missed it in the video, but it's not on it. It's like they missed quite a bit of property on the north side of Herbert Street in their plan and their concept. So when they come back next week, or if they're one of the ones that does come back, if they can kind of touch on that. I mean, because he brought up a good point there. Kind of got a grocery market in an area that's not something we control, but there's considerable amount of property on the north side of Herbert Street, contiguous to Herbert Street, that we do that's not in the concept at all.
I think we discussed that in the video.
It may be there.
It might,
take a
yeah.
look,
but it's something we'll.
Yeah.
They did, but that's something that's got to come out in public.
But I know we did. I remember talking about that.
It was, but he's right. It does need part of the public conversation.
Okay.
Okay. With that, I'll let you take a quick break, and I want to hear from anyone here in the room that has a question or wants to say something about this. Public? Come on up, Robert. I had a feeling.
He's bucking for another participation award.
He's got 3 minutes.
Commission members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive, Port Orange. I was looking with concern about the pathway along the river, and these all far exceeded my expectations because I was dreading what was going to happen. And for that, I thank you. I thank staff and Colliers for moving on that and holding them to that. There were some comments about deed encumbrances. And so my question is, have any of these proposals included granting the city an easement for that walkway along the river? Or is it going to be maintained as private property? And then looking at the harbor proposal, they indicated there's garage parking, but I could not see where on the thing that was, where there was any indication of a garage. And then with respect to the grocery market, I really like that because I like to focus in terms of creating a neighborhood rather than creating a destination. You want a destination, but I think that the neighborhood concept should predominate. And then some of them were asking for extra monies. The CRA, as I understand, has built-in incentives for developing, and I'm not sure I believe that the city should be providing anything over and above what the CRA already provides. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Who else? Anyone else? Come on up, Chris.
Hi again. Chris Cunningham, 150 Sweet Gun Lane. My question, which I'm sure you are anticipating, environmental oversight. It's got to be very strong. We have our river, we have water quality, we have clearly a lot of parking, which makes everything impervious to our weather events, and we need to really focus. I saw one of the photos out there had some retention ponds on US 1, closer to that side. We're going to need buffers between any development and the river. And it's very, very important that we stay on top of that for whoever we choose, which, I mean, they all are very good proposals. Most people, I would think, now as a resident, less apartments, more retail, because I have been looking forward to this area growing as well and as a destination, so I fully support that. But the environmental capacity and their focus and the oversight has really got to be something that we haven't done before, because it hasn't really been needed. And we do well, but we need to really take that seriously. Okay? Any questions? Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody other than Kat? Anybody?
Good evening. Kat Atwood, 872 Sugar Grove Court. Thank you for all of the efforts. I'm absolutely thrilled by what I see as potentially being there, but one thing I'd like to see in consideration in the planning stages is either covered parking that is solar powered or charging stations. I think that it's coming. People need to know that we were able to provide for them as well. I know there are a few at the pavilion, but if you're going to make this truly a destination, let it be incorporated into somebody's GPS route too when they come through, knowing that they can come plug in here while they sit in and have a nice meal in the river. Or if you're going to provide covered parking to protect our vehicles or whatever from the sun beating down on them, take advantage of that sun and make the covered area solar powered on top. So just consideration.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Back to us. I just wanted to include my comments in the conversation as well. I think it's important that the natural flavor of the river be preserved, not just, there were 6 different concepts, but all very good in their own right, of how to maintain that trail, but it's got to have a natural feel to it, because that's important, and that adds to the destination feel. But I do recognize the importance of balancing the business for the retail versus residential, because if it isn't profitable, nothing gets built. And nobody's going to make that large investment. Sure. So I realize that I'm not stuck on a retail number, but more is better. What I would hope is that next week, and it was talked about some already in their presentations, but I'm hoping they talk about not just how much retail, but the balance of, what they're trying to attract for retail, because I think we would all be in agreement that we want to know not just how much retail space is, but are we looking at restaurants? Are we looking at shops? What are we looking at in that mix of retail? Because I think that matters just as much as how much space there is available. And I'm not going to get hung up. If I get that retail component satisfied to me, I'm not going to get hung up on saying you got to have this many residential or not, because I also know that that can impact the quality of the residential element of that as well. So if you hit the nail on the button with the retail, with the things Scott talked about and everybody else talked about, making it a destination, then give me something, some kind of quality with a residential. I'm not gonna get too hung up on that. That's just me. I do realize that winners and losers are not necessarily winners and losers in the end, because there may be one that gets this, but because of the other components of Riverwalk, we might see some of these investors come back and do other things in the area. So for me, I thought about shortlisting myself, which 4 I want to hear from. Because there are so many unknowns and I would lose the ability to question, I personally am going to make the commitment to invest the time in hearing from all 6 and being able to ask them the questions that I need to ask them to either include them or discount them from the decision-making process. So that's me. And I'll stop right there, because I know I wanted to give us a chance to go around the horn one more time. In your comments, do me a favor this time. Tell me if you want to simply, if there's somebody you want to disclude next week, let me know, or if you want to include everybody, let me know. And Jonathan, your comments, and then let us know that, because let's get to the actual question we have for the evening.
I believe I already know this from asking staff before, but for Harbor Retail Partners, they have 68,000 commercial retail. How much of that was the grocery store? If I remember, it's 40,000. Correct. So that still leaves 28,000 left over for additional retail. All right. Another thing that's not on this sheet that might be interesting for anyone else that's watching, BLD is the only one of these 6 that has a 6-floor project. Something of note is when it comes to balancing.
Versus the 5s.
Right, versus 5 on everybody else, which is worth noting because, as the mayor just said, we clearly have a few people up here, myself included, that believe in the destination idea. Somewhere that people are going to want to go and take their kids, take their girlfriends, take their wives, go out on dates, have drinks, go to the gym, go do yoga. A destination, someplace that people are going to want to go. If achieving that commercial retail square footage requires a few more apartments, as long as it's still high quality and we're not going insane with that number, I'm open-minded to that. As long as we're able to get to that destination and get to that 25,000 square feet would be great. I wanted to share that thought because I didn't share it earlier. And again, I love the idea of having people be able to access that trail and have things to do while walking along it. You know, the idea in my head is that this connects all the way from Riverwalk Park down to Dunlawton, and that it would be something, maybe you go to the park first and you let the kid play on the playground, and then you walk down to the river, you walk along the river, and you can pop in, you can have dinner. You know, that's how I have it in my head. I know these are all concepts, they're all very interesting, everyone did a really good job. I believe this is a really big decision, and I believe we should attempt to listen to as many as everyone else can stomach. I do have one that I feel the least strongly about, and I'll share that now. That's Landmark. It concerns me. I too watched the videos, as Michael was saying. Thought that response was very interesting. I noticed on their sheets here, they were the only one that did not provide an estimated project budget versus the other 5 did. Just something I noticed. So obviously, if you wanted to do 5 and not 6, then I've kind of given away that much. But I don't think there's anything else I can add. One more thing I did want to ask, though, Mayor. I don't know if now's the appropriate time. Is there any way at all for Michael and Stan to be able to attend virtually, or is that off the table now?
Well, first of all, they got to be able to be free, but that'd be. I don't think that is allowed. Matthew, you can answer that for us. I believe the resolution that the governor has expired for that.
Unfortunately, that's no longer an option.
Okay, I didn't know, but I thought it'd be good to ask for the record.
There's still options for illness and other things of that nature, but vacation's probably not going to fit.
Okay. Thank you.
For your preference, you're fine with all 6, even though you do have a week one?
Hey, what's going to impress me is we are 7 individuals giving all this information, it's going to impress me how they respond. How are they going to react to the information
Well,
that
they're
we're
hearing you
giving?
say that right now, so you'd hope they'd bring their A games.
Well, I expect all 6 of them to bring their A game. All power players here. So,
Stan?
Well, again, I'm not going to be here next week, so you guys can listen to as many as you want. If I had my choice,
Stan's like invite 6 more.
Yeah, bring them on. Let's go. But I liked the way Bristol and Harbor and Landmark sort of addressed the river, especially Landmark and Bristol. They really seem to, Bristol has event spaces near the river, and they really seem like, I think they're the only one that was keeping Halifax Drive alive. So that could be, public event space and that type of thing. Those would be my 3 favorites. I did not
Bristol,
like
which one?
Bristol, Harbor, and Landmark.
Okay.
I was not really impressed by Falcon at all. It felt like to me an apartment building in a big parking lot. There was nothing there that really seemed like they really put a whole lot of thought into it. And again, that's just the dumb accountant looking at this stuff. So that's, you guys have a fun time next week. It's not going to be easy, obviously.
Let's hope not.
That's right.
Chase?
You gotta bring some gingerbread for all of them?
I kind of know what happened.
Pumpkin bread.
Pumpkin bread.
Let's not confuse it with gingerbread.
You got to follow along on Facebook.
Be careful bringing that home. You might not get any yourself.
Yeah. All right, so 2 quick comments I'll make, and Mayor, you actually mentioned one that I was going to. I'm just a message for the folks who are listening. I'm indifferent as to the amount of dwelling units in there, for a number of reasons, frankly. And I talk about this quite often when it comes to development and building homes. That the fewer homes we allow to be developed, the higher the cost goes, because the supply continues to go down. So, that being said, we already have an issue of attainable housing around here, so I'm okay with the high dwelling unit. That being said, I also agree with to Scott's point. I would like to preferably see a good substantial amount of commercial retail, and the dwelling units are really they contribute to the long-term viability of the surrounding commercial. For what it's worth, that's my opinion on that. The other question or the other comment I would make that whoever, when you come next week to present, I'd be interested to know if any of them plan to ask for any tax incentives or abatements or anything of that nature. Not something I would be personally interested in approving, anything above what's already allotted for in the CRA, but I just want to hear the honesty and the approach that would be taken, because I would hate to, I don't want to be in a position to give someone the opportunity to do this and then later on come back and say, oh, by the way, we want this, we want that, we want this. So at the very least, come with those proposals up front. And as far as who I want to hear from, again, these are all very high quality folks. I'm prepared to put in the time to hear from all 6, should that be the pleasure of the council.
Okay. Drew?
In looking at it, I kind of stated I'd be interested in hearing from 3. If it's a will of the council and they want to hear all 6, I'm okay with that. I'm also okay with, not holding them strongly to the dwelling units, but I in my mind, I envisioned this as roughly at least 25,000 square feet of retail. And so that's kind of where I want to be there. And on all of these, I'm sure the flexibility is there to get there. The one thing, I think it was Landmark, if I'm correct, Wayne, in looking at, one of their letters of intent or something, it looked like they were asking for some grants or a little bit too much in return. So while they had the highest offer, if they get everything they asked for, it's going to be one of the lower offers on the backside. Did I read that correctly?
They had a TIF grant request that I think where you were going, both of you have, is that the key direction, we're going to be on the phone with whoever you want tomorrow, is to clarify what incentives you want, just like Councilman Tremont was saying. You know, we have our basic CRA package that we had done with a couple of other developments. If they want that, that's easy enough to explain. If they want anything beyond it, they need to clarify. This one is one of the ones that's not clear to us what they meant by a TIF grant. It implies give money, you don't get grants back.
And that's what I was looking at. I'm like, because the TIF is already there, it's spelled out. There's already, I mean, that's there. And you know, they were all, everybody had in mind, you know, asking for some relief with permit fees and things like that.
And they typically work off
and that's
of,
how you get things done. You get that, but you get so much more in return on the backside. But to me, it seemed like Landmark was asking excessively.
we'll make sure that they clarify exactly what it is that they want, so that what you're understanding is this is the price we've offered and these are the incentives, and how that may affect the actual price. We'll make sure that that's clear to you next week.
And in my mind, like, you know, ultimately, I'm like, my cap, I didn't want to put a hard cap on it, but my cap was going to be 10 stories high, because basically that's a little over 100 feet, and we got ladder trucks and things that we can work that with. When you go ultra high rise, any higher than that, it's very difficult sometimes from the fire side to, you know, operate. And I get it. They have, you know, standpipes and things and pumps, but I really wanted to be under 10 stories so you didn't get that ultra high rise. So there's some flexibility for my number on the retail unit or on the residential units, because if they needed an extra floor to get there, the highest one was 6. We're way under where I wanted to be. So if somebody had to go 7 to get it done, that's not going to hurt my feelings at all. So, you know what, I stated my 3 that I'd want to hear from, but I could hear from all of them. It you know, makes no difference, because I'd have questions for all of them.
Okay. Scott?
I guess I gotta comment on that for just a second. I'm not interested in 10-story, so just make sure you can share with what Councilman Bastian's got to say there, but I'm not interested in anything that high. Can you come back up for just 1 second? Because I think I kind of get the gist of where this, and I know the mayor's probably thinking this too, where this is going. So timeline, or time-wise, for these groups to come in and give us a real good presentation, solid feel, what's the minimum amount of time we need to be able to allocate to each one of these groups, in your opinion? I'm going to ask the city manager to weigh in too.
Probably 45 minutes for each group would be a minimum, you know.
That's kind of what
20
I was
of
thinking,
a
40, 45.
20 of their, you know, their show, and then 25 of questions, you know, for you guys to really be able to, you know, go back and forth.
You
So-
can see where we would spend more times questioning than
Yeah,
actually
I mean,
listening to
you've got their
presentation.
presentation.
We
I mean, they
certainly
might
did that
tweak them a
tonight.
little bit based on some of the feedback here tonight, but for all intents and purposes, you know, they'll come with their A game. But they're going to really want to hear your questions, your feedback, and so
Yeah.
on and so forth.
And I also, I think 45 minutes max, 20, telling them 20 for the presentation, knowing that Q&A could be 20 to 25 after that. I think we also need to allow a little bit of time at the end after the presentations, because sometimes something comes up after presentation 3 or 4 that, man, I wish I'd asked presenter number 1. So Wayne, we will need probably another 15, 20 minutes just to hit those kind of questions at the end. And keep in mind, council, if we approach 11 p.m., which we will, we'll need an extension in time voted for. So
Are we permitted to start early, or is that because of the notice?
it's a regular meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
thought so.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Scott.
No, this is what I wanted to talk about at this point, because I was kind of sensing where this might go. So yeah, I was kind of thinking minimum 40, no more than an hour, so 45 kind of right in there, and 45, I guess if we think 20 minutes of presentation, and then there's going to be 2 less folks, so 5 minutes each for our own.
I'm going to go with his recommendation because he's the one that's done this before,
Right.
not us.
So, but he's not presenting next week. He's got the easy seat. But yeah, I'm comfortable with 45 minutes. So, again, I'm good with narrowing it down to 4 tonight. But if you guys all want to do 6, I'm not going to lose any sleep on that at all. So,
okay. Michael?
Yeah, I'm with Stan on this. If you guys want to hear all 6,
Knock
it's not going to change anything for us. I'll be watching it, so I guess
They may still be meeting when we get back, Michael.
Yeah, I'll be texting Matt my vote, see what he does with it. But no, I mean, someone said it's not going to be easy, but we win no matter what on this deal. I mean, that's a great thing. I mean, there's a lot of hard work, regardless of what we see because there's still a lot of conceptual opportunity to be a part of that process. And you do have obviously very qualified. I mean, when you check out what you can on the websites and the previous work, if you looked at their portfolio work, I mean, golly, there's some amazing stuff that I can't wait. This has been a long time coming, and it's very exciting that we're finally at a contractual phase and moving forward. And I know everybody I talk to is extremely excited, not about who it's going to be, that it's going to be someone and it's moving forward. Because I think they've put the faith in the right people, and kudos again to the staff for bringing this together and for everyone on the commission to vote to get this continually moving forward. Good luck, guys. It's going to be fun. I appreciate the opportunity to be part of it, but I will be watching remotely and enjoying it.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. Wayne, I think the consensus is yes, that we're going to hear from all 6, but we've waited over 2 decades to see something done. I'm ready to use this before I leave office. I don't want to hand off to the next mayor, whoever it is, ground that hasn't been broken and wondering what it's going to be. If somebody else finishes it, that's fine. But it's up to us in this council to use these shovels and hard hats and turn some dirt, and the sooner the better. I'm ready to go right now. And frankly, I appreciate the hard work we put in tonight, the different viewpoints. I'm looking forward to the conversations we have next week, because frankly, when we've got this quality coming to us, we can really mess up, choose the 3rd best bid, and still be just fine. I really feel that confident about it. Knowing that, we've given them a lot of feedback tonight. I know staff and you guys are going to be reiterating that so that they can tailor their presentations to our concerns. The retail element is obviously very important to all of us. Different aspects of it, some of it size, some of it quality, some of it what it is that we're going to see out of it. I'm sure there'll be questions about if there's a grocer there, what kind it would be. I'm sure we'll get all those questions answered next week. And at the end, I just wanted to reiterate what the expectation is that at the end, we're going to have a paper ballot, and we're going to rank our responses. Me personally, I have a matrix of a whole bunch of things that I'm going to rank and figure out myself where everybody, and that's weighted. Some things are more important than others. But at the end of the day, we're going to produce a product that staff can go back and execute and go negotiate. Are there any other questions to come? Wayne, did we cover what? Do you have what you need out of us?
Can you get the microphone going? Yes, sir. Thank you very much for your time, detail, diligence. I know that was a lot of information, and it's coming fast, so I appreciate all that you did and all your insights. I think it was very thorough and very clear.
Okay. And I appreciate this. These are very good.
Better than my
amount
handwriting.
of data that we got, it's slightly overwhelming, but I know that how we'll be spending the Christmas season. And that concludes the CRA portion of the meeting. We'll give you guys a minute to escape while we continue our council meeting. Michael,
you.
thank you. Stan, thank you. And I gotta
See you guys.
wait for the attorney to return to the, because he's up next.
Just so we're clear, you're all six?
All six.
Okay, there was no vote, but it doesn't matter. You
We
don't
had
need to-
consensus.
Okay.
Excellent. Thanks.
Hey, don't hesitate to bring like a lunchbox with you or something if you need to. We won't be offended. Yeah, we won't be
Dave's
offended.
buying the pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody needs to buy pizza.
I think Stan and Mike should buy pizza.
Yes, please.
The joint special meeting with the Town Center CRA is over. That brings us to item 25, City Attorney.
Nothing further.
Excellent report. Item 26, City Manager.
Nothing further?
Excellent report. Council Committee reports. City Council, River to Sea TPO, Scott?
TPO has put out their call for projects, their annual call for projects, and I forwarded that over to Wayne, and as to be expected, staff's already on top of it, so I think they'll be bringing that to us January, February timeline, Wayne?
Yes, sir. Either the last meeting in January or the first one in February.
Okay. General Employees Pension Plan, Scott?
We meet Monday.
All right. Fire Pension Plan, Jonathan?
Yeah, we just met 2 weeks ago. The plan is up 20% for fiscal year 2021. However, it did lose 0.8% last quarter, but it's already had gotten back up 3% since then. Something to note is they actually voted to take $2 million from a fund that was underperforming and move it into a different fund to kind of allocate some assets differently and see if we can improve the return that's occurring over there in that pension.
Very good. Police Pension Plan.
I was not able to attend that meeting, but I got what Tyler, the plan continues to perform pretty well, and it's showing positive growth.
Okay. With that, any other business come before us this evening? I certainly hope that's okay. I don't see anything. I'm going to drop the gavel right now and say, have a good night, everybody. I look forward to seeing everybody next week. Merry Christmas.